Good morning everyone. Basa tayo ng ating libro, History of the Filipino People by Agoncillo and Guerrero. Today is 8 January 2023. History of the Filipino People, Part 3, Reform and Revolution. Nandito tayo sa topic number 14. The Religious Schism. Basa. The only living and tangible result of the revolution was the Filipino Church, popularly known as the Aglipayan or Philippine Independent Church. When at the start of the second phase of the revolution, the Spanish Archbishop enlisted Father Gregorio Aglipay's help in bringing back the Filipinos to the Spanish side. Aguinaldo persuaded Aglipay to divert his energies to the cause of the people. Mabini, riding on the crest of the popular nationalistic movement, suggested the founding of a Filipino national church. Though unsuccessful owing to war conditions, his idea laid the groundwork of the latter Philippine Independent Church. The story of the birth of this church is to a great extent the story of the struggle of the Filipino clergy to Philippinize the Catholic Church in the Philippines. Gregorio Aglipay on the scene. The revolution, which began in 1896, was primarily a conflict of races. On the one hand were the Filipino civil and clerical groups who were up in arms against the Spanish civil and clerical segment on the other. As it turned out, the second phase of the revolution was not only political but religious as well. The Philippine Catholic Church, whose majority belonged to the party of the oppressors, aided and abetted the colonial government on its policy of repression. Mabini himself, in his letter to General Otis in 1898, accused the Spanish friars of giving aid and comfort to the colonial administration and of taking up arms when necessity arose against the revolutionists. In the circumstances, he refused to free the prior prisoners. And the second phase of the revolution, which commenced with Aguinaldo's return from Hong Kong, Governor General Basilio Agustin and Archbishop Bernardino Nozaleda, knowing the Father Gregorio Aglipay was still sympathetic to Spain but rather hostile to the United States, played a game in which Aglipay was the pawn. They commissioned him to confer with the revolutionary leaders, particularly with Mariano Trias, Artemio Ricarte, and Emiliano Riego de Dios, in order to bring them back to the Spanish side. The way to win them over to their side was the promise of autonomy. Aglipay did as he was told, but his mission was a failure, for the revolutionary leaders had lost their faith in Spanish promises. Meanwhile, Aguinaldo had just returned from Hong Kong, sent Colonel Luciano San Miguel as his emissary to Aglipay for the purpose of persuading the latter to work for the Filipino cause. Nozaleda countered by commissioning Aglipay to win over Aguinaldo to the Spanish cause. Aguinaldo, however, was firm in his determination to cooperate with the Americans and urged Aglipay to go to the north to work for the revolutionary cause. Nozaleda was well posted on these moves and, taking advantage of the situation, encouraged Aglipay to go north, not to heed Aguinaldo's promptings but to investigate the condition of the bishopric of Nueva Segovia. Aglipay toured the northern provinces and secured the release of two Jesuit priests. Upon his return to Manila to report to Nozaleda, he found the city besieged on all sides. In the circumstances, he did the next best thing. He went to Cavite and joined Aguinaldo's movement. At the instance of Mabini, the revolutionary government recognized the validity of civil marriage on the assumption that the revolution had made the separation of church and state a reality. By state, Mabini meant, of course, the revolutionary government, not the colonial government. Moreover, the revolutionary government, again, at the instance of Mabini, refused to recognize Nozaleda's authority and went so far as to prohibit any Filipino priest from accepting any responsibility from the Catholic Church or from occupying vacant parishes without the express approval of the revolutionary government. The circumstances then were propitious for the rebel government to win the full cooperation of the Filipino clergy. On October 20, 1898, Aguinaldo issued a decree appointing Aglipay military vicar general. This appointment made Aglipay the religious leader of the revolutionary movement. Nozaleda against Aglipay. Aglipay's position in the revolutionary government as military vicar general and his position in the Catholic hierarchy as ecclesiastical governor of the Diocese of Nueva Segovia were anomalous. As a Filipino, he had to support the revolutionists. But as a Catholic priest, he had to back up the head of the church. Tapos na yung heater ko. Okay, ulit. As a Filipino, he had to support the revolutionists, but as a Catholic priest, he had to back up the head of the church, who, as a Spaniard, was naturally for the colonial government. Aglipay chose to be a Filipino first and a Catholic second. On October 21, a day after his appointment as a military vicar general, he issued a letter to the Filipino clergy urging them to organize themselves into a cohesive body geared to the national emergency. The letter also urged the creation of a Cabildo or council, which would ask the Pope to appoint Filipinos in all church positions from Archbishop to the lowest parish priest. Realizing the chaotic condition into which the parishes had fallen owing to the capture of the Spanish prior curates, Aglipay on October 22 issued a manifesto asking the Filipino clergy to organize themselves in such a way as to take charge of all vacant parishes. This appeal was made to prevent further deterioration of the religious affairs of the country. An ecclesiastical governor of Nueva Segovia, Aglipay urged the priests under his jurisdiction to rally to the revolutionary cause and to consolidate all the forces favorable to the cause of the Filipino clergy. Nozaleda, deeply alarmed at Aglipay's increasing popularity and the consolidation of his position as a factor favorable of the Filipino clergy's cause, decided to discipline the nationalistic Filipino priests. On April 29, 1899, Nozaleda charged Aglipay with usurpation of power and urged the ecclesiastical tribunal to punish the Filipino priests. With the blessings of the tribunal, Nozaleda issued his decree excommunicating Aglipay. It was to take effect on May 5, 1899. The decree of excommunication declared Aglipay a usurper and schismatic in an age of obscurantism. Excommunication was the most potent weapon of the prelates to force their enemies to their knees. It was effective in Europe during the Middle Ages, and Nozaleda thought it would have the same effect on the Filipinos toward the close of the 19th century. And why not? Governor General Juan de Vargas, 1678 to 1684. Though punished with less than excommunication, was forced to stand at the entrance of the Manila churches for a period of 4 months, wearing a sackcloth and a rope about his neck. The effect on the governor's person was almost the same as if he were excommunicated: embarrassment and humiliation. And so the Manila Archbishop thought he could humiliate Aglipay by excommunicating him, but he was mistaken. Aglipay was a man of strong character, and instead of cowering before the Spanish prelate to ask for forgiveness. He returned the compliment by declaring Nozaleda excommunicated. Furthermore, he charged Nozaleda with starving the people and with collaborating with the Spaniards and the Americans in the latter's policy of repression. Succeeding events proved that Nozaleda's excommunication decree did not carry its usual weight with the people. Mabini and the National Church. Apolinario Mabini, a Mason and an uncompromising nationalist, saw the necessity of having a church administered by Filipinos and owing its loyalty to the country. On October 22, 1899, while vacationing in Rosales, Pangasinan, Mabini directed a manifesto to the Filipino clergy urging them to organize a Filipino National Church. He said, "Let the Filipino clergy show their zeal and love for the church. Let them show their capacity to govern not only the parishes but also the diocese. Let them show that the regular orders are not needed in the Philippines to maintain alive the faith in the Catholic religion, and the Pope, who cannot separate from justice as a vicar of Christ, who is God, has to recognize the rights and merits of the Filipino priests. This is the most opportune occasion which divine providence offers them to obtain their reparation of their grievances. Those who aspire to be something more than mere coadjutors and pages must not let this occasion pass." Mabini argued for the preservation of the church, but its preservation must be predicated upon the appointment of Filipino clergy to all positions, high or low. The National Church, as Mabini conceived it, was to cooperate with the Republic, thereby making the Filipinos completely united in their independence stand. The Filipino National Church. Mabini's call for a Filipino church and the favorable attitude of the Republic toward the Filipino clergy heartened the latter, who believed that the time was ripe for the assertion of the rights not only to occupy the parishes but also to direct Philippine Catholicism at the top. Consequently, Aglipay, acting in his capacity as military brigadier general, called the Filipino clergy to an ecclesiastical assembly at Paniqui, Tarlac on October 23, 1899. Aglipay stated the aims in his speech, namely the Philippinization of the Catholic Church and the prevention of anarchy in religious matters. A provisional constitution of the Filipino Church was framed, which outlined the composition of the Filipino Church. The nationalistic temper of the Filipino clergy was expressed in one of the canons, which provided that recognition of foreign bishops was forbidden except under extraordinary circumstances. The Constitution, in effect, declared the independence of the Filipino clergy from Spanish control and supervision and the assumption of authority to negotiate with Rome. The wartime conditions of the period, however, gave the Church no opportunity to develop fully. The Filipino government was on the verge of collapse, and Aglipay himself was in the fight, fighting side by side with the Filipino guerrillas. Bukas na yung chapel and Filipinization, guys. Bye everyone. God bless.